We were during the height of the pandemic and the peak of the supply chain building crisis. The
Yeah.
lumber and building materials had gone through the roof.
Did they come back with any changes for the price increases for materials?
If you're gonna buy like a pre-build, make sure that you are with a reputable builder and you sign an ironclad contract. Sometimes, depending on your area, you're just gonna be at the mercy of who the builder is.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on Constructive Conversations, the podcast that dives deep into the chasm that exists between contractors and their customers. Our goal is to improve communication between contractors and their customers by interviewing people on both sides and gleaning the keys of how to have your construction project go right. Joining me today is Kaylea Ball, a firefighter who just moved to Collingwood, Ontario, where her and her husband put a deposit down on a new build at the peak of COVID, right in 2020. You're going to find out, did the house get delivered? Was it on time? Was there expenses due to COVID? How did it go? What was the process like? If you're considering getting into a new build for the first time, you're going to want to listen to this. Thanks for joining us today, Kaylea. So tell us about your experience. When did you start your build?
We bought our house the first year of the pandemic and we waited almost 2 years for it to be built from our builder, which was expected, was the promised timeline. So it didn't like take more time. They were done when they said they were going to be done it. So that was obviously, that's always like a huge thing, right? Is timeline for a lot of people. How long is it going to take this to get done? We were during the height of the pandemic and the peak of the supply chain building crisis. The lumber and building materials had gone through the roof. Our builder had like 1,000% lost money on our build for sure.
And did they come back with any changes for the price increases for materials or anything?
No.
Wow.
Thankfully, that's
Nice.
something that I would say is like a big thing. If you're going to buy like a pre-build, make sure that you are with a reputable builder and you sign an ironclad contract, because I've heard, and I'm sure you've heard, gajillions of horror stories from people being like, oh, my builder said the price changed. Oh, the price has gone up $25,000. The price has gone up $50,000, $100,000.
Yeah, there was a lot of that during COVID. And I think I heard in your area, there was builders who bailed on people who said, oh yeah, please cough up another $50,000.
Yep. There's tons of builder companies that went out of business because they either under-promised, over-promised, or they're just like, oh, we can build this for you, but it'll cost too much money, and they went out of business.
Yeah, because they're obligated in their contracts. In my experience, there's gaps between contractors communicating with their customers. And then there's issues, and you hear the stories all the time, there's issues, and it's like, why are those issues there? Who doesn't know how to communicate well enough so that stuff isn't a surprise?
I think that you're definitely right. There definitely is gaps. I think there's a lot of factors. I think so much of it is exactly what you said, it's communication. I think some people have a business and maybe they don't think they need to communicate with clients as much, or they try to avoid communicating with clients a lot in order to not promise more than they're going to execute on.
So they don't want to commit. Commit and be like, oh, right, I forgot I said that.
So thankfully, we were in a good situation. We were with a reputable builder. We're with Devon Lee Homes. They're a pretty popular builder in Ontario specifically. And now we live in Collingwood. They've built multiple subdivisions here in the surrounding area. And then now they're going way up north. Plus the rest of they have a ton of other ones like that I don't even know about. So we knew they were a reputable builder, but they're a very big builder. They have a lot of stuff going on. So you're not going to get face-to-face with anybody like about multiple questions that you have.
Was it a different person every time you communicate with them? Was it a different person answering you, or did they have someone assigned, like, this is your go-to person with questions?
Yeah, there was no go-to person. It was always multiple people. They had it set up good, though, in the sense of, like, stuff was scheduled, so it was supposed to happen in stages because we were so far out. We were a year, 9 months out from our obtaining house day. They had it set up good. We didn't do pretty much anything for the first 9 months. They were just, see you when we're gonna pick stuff for your house.
Going into it, did you have any experience buying new or
No, we
experience
didn't.
like dealing with major contractors, anything like that? Like, and what was your expectation going into it?
No, neither of us had any experience with that, not like private contractors or obviously like a big contractor. We had gotten recommendations on what to do with new builds from other people, as you do if you're going to buy a new build, or obviously if you're going to hire a contractor and build a house. So we kind of knew it was going to be a process, and we would pick our finishes or pick whatever your layout for your house is going to be through the builder. And then my expectation was just that we would periodically start hearing from them about what was going on with our build. That never happened. I guess that was just my expectation. They never said that that was going to happen. Something I definitely would have liked, and I think could be included for some contractors, would be timelines. Not even timelines, but just more communication. You don't even have to promise, oh, we're going to do the lighting next week. But you could do updates like, oh, we did lighting and flooring this week. We did painting this week, floors, whatever.
How often did they update you?
Very, very seldom. We picked our finishes a year out. Honestly, I can't even tell you. I don't even remember hearing from them at all. I think it was like they were promised to be done November 24th was when our house was supposed to be done. Yeah. So we started getting closer. So we started driving by our build every week to see what was going on.
So that was your update. You just drive by and
that
see
was
what's
our
going
update.
on.
Yeah, we would just drive and go see, look around the house, see what's going on. Is that the best way to do that? Definitely not.
No.
The
and you happen to be in the area.
Yeah, we were driving
so it doesn't work
20 minutes to go and see it. Because we never got updates like, oh, poured the foundation. Like, we never got any kind of updates like that. I think as somebody who was just watching the project from afar, and which would be the case for most people watching their house be built, they would like more updates. I can see why that doesn't exist in the atmosphere a lot. Even with private contractors and other contractors, I don't think you necessarily see that a ton with any other builds. So right now we've had a deck and a fence built, same thing. We don't get updates from them. We get, oh, we're going to start on blank day. Oh,
so they're only communicating because they need to tell you, we're going to be here. Yes, they're not going out of their way to say, just so you know, all the posts are going to be done by Friday or something useful.
Because, and I think that doesn't exist in that sphere because of that, because contractors don't want to make promises and then have people come back and be like, well, you said you were going to pour posts today. You said you were going to put boards on today, because shit happens. And I think that's, as something for a consumer, people just need to be more patient. There's a threshold for patience, for sure. I'm sure you've experienced very patient people and very impatient people. But I think when it comes to being a consumer of such a high-end service, anytime you're going to have something built, you're paying someone else to do a service for you. Sure. It just happens. There's a big difference between hiring a shitty contractor and somebody who's just messing around, like ridiculous timelines and constant issues and stuff like that. But there is also a threshold for patience of how long stuff takes. I've met people in the service industry who've been like, it needs to be done instantly when I want it to be done.
And they probably might not have realistic expectations. But even if it was, so say they don't know if they'll get the post done on Wednesday or Friday, but if you got an email that was, we're going to do your fence post sometime this week, just so you know.
Yeah.
Would you rather be informed of that?
I think so, because we've had other experiences with our own builder now. So when they were going to put our sod in, when they were going to pour our driveway, we didn't always get updates for that stuff.
Yeah, which shouldn't be hard for them to implement, because the big companies, a lot of them have software. They're running their projects on an app, so you just tell the app to send out an update.
Absolutely.
So was there any, while your house was being built, was there any surprises? Anything totally unexpected that came up?
Our biggest thing, we were shocked by how fast it went up. The house was due to be done in November. I don't think they poured the foundation until April. So it was up super fast. So that was a worry. When you think, oh, well, my house is going to be built, you don't think that's going to take a short amount of time. At least not in my personal experience. You don't want a house. You don't want a house to be built instantly.
You expect it to take take some time to build something that big. So when they said, okay, 2 years is the timeline, they didn't say, we're going to pour your foundation a year from now.
Yeah. And that's fine because we knew we were phase 2 of the subdivision. So they had already built a phase. We were not the last phase either. So they were still working on existing phases and buildings that were already there. So we knew that they were doing work there. It wasn't like we were just like sitting around being like, when are they going to break ground? But there was a point in the spring, we were like, oh, in the new year. And then we are like, well, it's Canada. But then, yeah, when they didn't even pour it until I think it was like late April, we were like, whoa, okay. Is this going to be too fast? Are they going to be done? And there was points when we would go visit the house that I was like, there's no way it'll be done. But right before November, the end of November when it was supposed to be done, we came and we were creeping around and like the house didn't have flooring, it didn't have trim, and this was a week out from our day and being like, there's no way this is going to be done. And then having it be done. That being said, it is a big builder. They have a lot of hands on deck and people doing stuff. And if there's timelines for them to meet, there is incentive for them to meet those timelines because with these builders, there's often things in place where if they don't give you your house by a certain date now, they have penalties to that. They owe you in those circumstances. Not all contractors exist under that.
Yeah, and that's something people should look for in their contract if that's a clause. In that period when you're just doing drive-bys, watching progress, was that stressful? What's your stress level like associated with
like
with the whole process?
It was exciting because we would go there and we'd be like, oh, what's done? I think the only time it gets stressful is if you were going there all the time and nothing was changing, for sure. But the reason that we were more incentivized to go and visit the property was because we weren't receiving those updates. If I got a text, oh, we did flooring and we painted the walls today, I would be like, oh, I would keep that in the back of my mind. Then you also wouldn't be surprised if it went a month and you didn't get an update and then you went there and nothing had been done. You wouldn't be surprised. You wouldn't be like, oh, I've just been sitting here and they're not doing anything. Like, why aren't they doing anything?
So that's back to if they communicated just a little bit more, then it would be a better experience, basically. Not necessarily less stress, but just better service.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's a fine line with contractors of that under and over promising of certain aspects because there's all kinds of people that they have their own existing timelines and they have their own idea of how long they think it should take you to do something, whether or not that's realistic. And that's why I say you got to have a certain level of patience when it comes to the service industry because it's only going to benefit everybody.
Yeah.
So the house was good. Like that, other than them starting it later, that was probably the only surprising thing. We did hear from them much closer to the date. They were maybe a couple weeks out. They were like, yeah, we're on track to close for like the 24th. You're going to do a walkthrough 24 hours before you take possession. So we went through and basically just you noted everything that you took issue with in the house. So on our walkthrough, I was super surprised. It was 99% done. They were missing one piece of hardwood floor, maybe a floor vent, a light switch cover, just
minor stuff.
Literal finishes.
And was that walkthrough like a contract line? Like, if you don't catch it now, we're not covering it.
No, nothing like that because there is an existing warranty that comes with the home and is part of the contract. That was just, I guess, they put it in their contract that you'll get a walkthrough 24 hours before you take possession. I honestly think it's for them, for the contractor to cover themselves and be like, hey, we're giving it to you. It's not officially done. We're just going to show you what exists now as a buffer to possession.
And then your expectation is there when you get possession. Like, oh yeah, I knew that cover isn't done yet, but I know they know about it now.
Exactly. Yes. Which is fair. And to our builder's credit, 24 hours later, all that stuff was done. I was shocked. Nice. I didn't think that they were going to find a random piece of hardwood floor and put it in or remember to do these things. And they were all done, all of them, but one thing was done. So that was super good. And then, our house comes with a warranty. We have a Terry-on warranty. They're super common for builders to warranty their work. And so that also goes with your contract and with buying like a pre-build or buying from a contractor, what kind of warranty they offer. Carry-on is a reputable warranty. You don't want to get warranty from a random company that won't exist in a year.
Yeah. You do
to
have to
do
be
work
careful.
or honor work.
And after you took possession, was there any issues? Did you have to have them back in for stuff you found?
One singular issue, and our one singular issue was that our dryer plug did not have power. We didn't notice that for a couple days because we were waiting for our appliances to be delivered. But then when my husband went to hook up all of our appliances, the dryer had no power. But I contacted them and they immediately sent someone over the next day and they fixed it and it was totally fine. So I will say with our builder and having this subdivision and their building site, there's always people around doing work. So there's always people available. I'm sure that's different for older subdivisions or contractors who are warrantying work. When we contacted them with an issue, we would have somebody there usually within 24 hours to deal with it.
Yeah.
But that was our expectation because they were on site and they have an office here. Now the office is closed and shortly they won't have anybody in the area. So the expectation for service has to change at that point.
Yeah, that'll take them longer to send someone over.
So they were good in that regard. We've only had a couple of issues with the house. Having seen other builds online and the standard of pre-builds in other areas, we are very lucky. Our builder is very good. Our house is very good quality. Everything was done. There's no weird corner cuts in the trim, stuff that doesn't work, outlets that aren't wired properly. There's nothing like that. Things that are frustrating in a home that would be poor craftsmanship.
Yeah, you paid for a new house. And was there everything delivered that you expected, or was there anything like, oh, I forgot that they said they didn't include a range hood, or the unfinished basement stairs, or was that communicated well enough?
No, that definitely was communicated well enough. They have a very good house design finishing people. They have a whole house and a whole team designated to that as part of their builder process. So when we went to choose our finishes and choose our house, they had said you need to set aside half a day to do this because you're designing your entire house. So we had the expectation that it was going to be very in-depth and take a lot of time. There is a reputation that when going with builder finishes for stuff and getting builders to add things to your home, there's a cost associated with that, a markup on their service. So you do have to be aware of that. That being said, we had a budget when we went in to do these finishes.
Yeah.
We had a budget to be like, oh, this is how much extra we're willing to spend on our build. Something as a consumer that obviously it's going to totally depend. Some people buy a house and they're like, we are putting the best of everything in here now because we don't want to have somebody come back later or have contract people.
Yeah, it's a lot of disruption later. Yeah, even if you might find a better price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which is totally fair. Older people who are going to be in the home for a long time and they don't want to have more people do work or don't want to DIY the work will pay the extra buck essentially to have all of this stuff done. Not us. We have a contractors back for the second time this year finishing our property. Something you should be aware of for some builders that they don't provide you with a deck and a fence in your yard.
Did they have, so you're in the subdivision, do they have conditions on your fence needs to be certain height, certain design for the backyard?
Not with our subdivision, no.
Okay.
That is a common occurrence with some subdivisions, is that there's regulations on what you can and cannot put in your subdivision or on your property. Almost like a homeowners association. Some have that. We don't have that. Thankfully, we're in a public subdivision that is so all the regulations fall under bylaw, and the subdivision itself had stipulations from the town. So when they built the subdivision on the plot of land, they had to agree to water runoffs, certain number of water runoffs, and certain number of parks, and a number of other things within the subdivision.
Stuff the city planners, they'll put that in.
Yeah, so we have parks and stuff like that, which is nice, but no homeowners association. So that being said, we still have to pay for all of this stuff ourselves that comes with the cost of building your home. which is great because we get to hire people to do the work the way we want it to be done, which is the benefit of hiring.
Yeah, you get more control over the decisions instead of choosing from a menu. Like, oh yeah, these are the options.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you were talking to someone who wants to buy a new home in a subdivision and they've never done it before, what's key advice you would give them?
Oh, research your builder for sure.
Yeah.
Knowing how reputable your builder is. Is it a big builder like ours who has done multiple subdivisions over multiple years? Or is this a private contractor that owns his own business and he's going to be building a custom home for you? Both of those experiences, there's nothing wrong with either. Either both serve completely different purposes. Our next contractor will be somebody building our house for us because we are not contractors.
You'll go custom next time.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll be having a private contractor build us a custom home. If you're buying in a subdivision, research your builder, research the warranty that you're getting, and then have realistic expectations for timeline. Have also a budget, understand how much it's going to cost for everything. Usually you pay a deposit up front. So we paid, I think it was like $20,000 deposit for our house to be built. And then you don't cough up the money until possession day, same as you would with moving. So
yeah. And how many builders did you look at before you settled on yours?
Not very many because there isn't a lot of new builds in this area where we live.
Yep.
Devonlea is currently building, I think, 3 of the biggest subdivisions in our area. Our area is tourism area, so the other builders that exist in this area are very high-end builders. They're building resorts and they're building hotel, Airbnb style places around the mountains and the community, which are not in our budget to look at. So sometimes, depending on your area, you're just going to be at the mercy of who the builder is, and then you have to decide whether or not that's an avenue you want to go with. I would say in the area of buying pre-builds and subdivisions, bigger is definitely better. But then when it comes to custom homes, you probably want someone smaller to build your custom home. Somebody who can give you a lot more attention to detail and one-on-one.
Yeah.
We picked our house from a catalog, from a wall of available houses. So our expectations were we're getting the house from the picture.
Yeah. And you know exactly what you're going to get. So that's good.
Yeah. And well, I'm sure when you do custom home building, you will have a similar experience of this is what I want built. But the difference being that what you want being built can change over time. When you buy a pre-build, you are buying exactly what you're buying.
Yeah, you're locked in. Do you think that made the decision-making process easier to have,
absolutely,
this is my option, instead of saying, okay, here's a blank canvas, invent the house that you want?
And I think that is for some people, if you have the budget to do that, 1,000%. When we build our custom home, that's the whole point of building a custom home. Everything's customized to exactly what we want within our budget and what we could afford now. We still had a boatload of options for our house and for our finishes. Like we did a custom shower in our bedroom because Scott is very tall and we needed the shower to be custom. So they were able to customize the height of the shower and stuff like that. So there is wiggle room within that, but we didn't have the option to finish our basement for us, or we want you guys to build us a deck. We didn't have the option of those add-ons.
Right.
Whereas when you have a custom home builder, if halfway through you want to put a deck on or rearrange your entire kitchen, you're going to pay for it, but
they'll do that. You'll get the change order, but that is an option. So for people who have no experience, that might be better that there's less decision making to do, because then you don't have to hum and haw about, oh, do we want a deck like this? Do we want our bathroom to be different layouts? Did they have a number of layouts that you could choose from up on their wall?
They did. Yeah, they did have different layouts within the building. So we live in a semi-detached house, and there was, I think, 2 or 3 different versions of our semi-detached house with varying options of locations for stuff. Like our laundry room's in the basement. It's not upstairs. We don't have a kitchen island. You could have a kitchen island. And there was stuff we opted out of and stuff we didn't. We install our own garage door opener, but the builder installed our air conditioning. And in hindsight, should we have done all of those things third party? Absolutely, because our builder, we didn't get to choose the location of those amenities. So our builder put our air conditioning unit at the side of our house by our garage door. It's very inconvenient. It blocks our
Mm-hmm.
entire garage door entry. Whereas if we'd had it done after the fact, we could have chose the exact spot where we wanted our air conditioner. So things that are not necessarily a luxury when choosing a pre-built a home versus a custom home.
Yeah, it's the little details, that get missed.
Oh, 1,000%. And is it enough that we're going to spend the money to move it? No. Is it just inconvenient? Yes. Are we less nitpicky than some people? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who take issue with a lot of things, right? And there's goofy things about our house that we don't particularly like. Our doorbell doesn't work. We've had it replaced twice. It still doesn't work. They said it won't work unless we buy our own. Just silly stuff like that. My only issue with our builder and the warranty comes back to communication. So we have I think the 3-year warranty for certain things. There was a 1-year warranty on the internal stuff. So the house settling, cracks and stuff like that forming throughout the house. But their stipulation in the contract is they'll come and fix it, but they won't finish it back to its existing state. So they came and they screwed in all the drywall screws that poked out and put mud on it, but they're not sanding it and painting it.
Right. They don't send someone back. So that's kind of stuff is good for someone to know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The guy said that to me when he showed up. He's like, we'll fix this for you, but we're not finishing it back to its original state. So if you want to do it, you can do it. If you want us to do it, then you have to finish it. And that was fine by me. Would that be fine for some other people? No, not necessarily. We had minor work and repairs done for our warranty. The one thing that they've never fixed for us was our basement window. So when they were filling and pouring our basement, they broke our window trim on our basement window. The plastic trim that surrounds it when they were putting cement piping through the window to pipe down into the basement. When we took possession of the house, we said, like, hey, you need to fix this window because you guys broke it. They did come to fix it, but when they brought the plastic trim parts, the maintenance guy was like, hey, if I fix this, it's going to break the seal on your window and your window won't be 100% waterproof. And he basically gave me an ultimatum of being like, do you want me to fix this window with the potential that it will leak, or do you want to just live with it being broken? So you can probably assume which I picked.
Yeah, so it's kind of a half-ass fix. We can break it more or we can leave it how it is, basically.
I can see where people get upset with contractors and stuff like that when you run into situations like that where both outcomes are shitty and not something that you would like. In hindsight, did we care? No, because now we've built a raised deck that completely covers our basement window. So not something that was a hill to die on. I think that's another big thing with contractors and your expectations for work is like, what's your hill to die on? For stuff, and what is stuff that you can live with. If you're going to be 100% perfectionist with your contractor or with the work that you're expecting to be received, then you need to have the understanding that you're going to pay for that.
Yeah, for sure. That comes with the cost. So you're doing the deck now. How's the experience with that contractor? I know it's different, a builder versus a contractor. How do those experiences compare?
Oh, they pale in comparison. I mean, the service from our smaller business is better. You get the face-to-face, you get questions answered, quick response and stuff like that. We had our deck built in the springtime and it was fantastic. We've received nothing but compliments on the deck. We basically gave our deck builder a custom drawing with measurements and said, build this for us. And they said, for sure, no problem. They gave us a quote. They were under budget on the quote, which was great. The deck turned out really nice. They did it like super quick and we received nothing but compliments on it. Fast forward to now. So they're back 4 months later to do our entire subdivision's fence. They've done 90% of the fencing in our subdivision. Not because they had a contract with the builder or anything like that. They went out all on their own and they got those contracts from people. And when they were here digging the bases for our fence and stuff, they actually came and knocked on my door and was like, hey, we just wanted to let you know that we noticed the deck we built you 4 months ago has sunk because in a new subdivision, everything is still settling. With all the rain that we've had this spring, the foundation sunk and settled and our deck was uneven. We didn't even notice because we don't typically stand on the back side of our yard
Yeah,
and
you're
look at
always
our
on the
house.
deck. Yeah.
Yeah, we're always on the deck. But it had sunk like 4 inches to the fact that our builder, who was just out in the yard, was like, "Hey, we messed up on that. We're gonna fix it immediately."
That's
And
awesome.
so, and I was super stoked on that. I think that's a really big thing too with contractors in all service areas is owning up to mistakes. I think that the area of
Yes.
pride, because it's craftsmanship, right? If somebody calls you on doing poor work, you're going to immediately take that as ego or take, oh, you have an issue with my work. But shit happens. Shit happens. Just stuff
Mhm.
happens. So if you're willing to kind of eat that ego and be like, oh, yeah, well, like I'll fix that. No worries. It's benefits you in the long run. Now I have a fantastic relationship with this contractor. I'm
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah. Neighbor
glad.
asks, you're gonna recommend them
A
every
thousand
time,
percent.
right, for their decks. So it's worth it
I,
for them to go and do those fixes and to follow up and make sure their work is good.
Absolutely. I mean, to their credit, if we had noticed after the fact, we would have probably called them up anyways and been like, hey, can you come fix this?
Yeah.
But not necessarily, right? Some people are just like, oh, well, they did bad work and that's it.
Mhm.
And don't follow up because they don't want to deal with that. But yeah, they did a really good job. They're doing a good job right now. The weather has been not great for pretty much the entire summer.
Mhm.
It's just been like rain for days nonstop and then 30 plus degrees. They dealt with
Uh-huh.
the wave of rain first and they had to come back and like redo a lot of the work that they already did. No cost to the consumer, which is nice. But that's a more positive experience you would get with a smaller builder. I can
Yeah.
call up my contractor and be like, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Or I have a problem with this. What's this timeline? Yeah.
Yeah, and you're gonna
Versus,
get an answer right then.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Anything else?
We love our place, our new build. I definitely would do a new build again, having the opportunity. It's really nice to live in a new house.
Yeah.
New houses, they have a bigger price tag for sure. We've had to do a lot of stuff with our house. We put a water softener system in our house. We put a deck, a fence. Eventually, we'll have to finish our basement. We're the kind of people that are picking and choosing our projects, so none of our house has paint, and we're doing like little projects as we go. But there is definitely a luxury associated with living in a newer house. It has newer finishes. Everything's new. Everything still has a warranty on it.
Yeah, and
Um,
everything works.
Everything works and nothing is weird. There's
Uh-huh.
not a light switch that you have no idea what it turns on and you'll never find out.
Yes,
Stuff like that.
exactly.
But yeah, it's been great. All we talk about is looking forward to building a custom home. So I'd be even curious to see you have more people on to talk about their experiences of doing custom homes from scratch because that seems even more ominous. Like I said, the luxury of the pre-build
Yeah.
was, as somebody who has a hard time making choices, the pre-build was
Mhm.
perfect because it was, here are your choices. You don't get ones outside of this. So for me, that was great. The idea of building a custom home, while very exciting because everything gets to be custom, no idea.
Yeah, then it gets
Very, very
overwhelming.
daunting. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so you'd wanna hear from people who have done full-on custom homes.
absolutely. And I
Okay.
think structure from like a contractor point of view, being like, this is our process. Like, what style of house do you want? Do you want a bungalow? Do you want to have 3 stories? How many rooms do you want?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah,
go
like, where
through
do they
that
start?
process.
How do they give you guidance? Yeah, I have a home builder coming up in August.
Nice.
Yeah, there's lots of interest here for people who wanna come on the podcast, so
Oh yeah,
there'll
that's
be a lot of
great.
guests. Yeah, and I'll get some from Ontario, so we'll get a variety. I wanna make it 50-50 so the consumer and contractors can listen and then they'll actually learn something useful. "Oh,
Oh,
I never realized I should be sending my customers updates more than every 8 months."
well, yeah, that
Hopefully
literally,
someone listens to that.
or they're just like, oh, I don't care about to do that. At the end of the day, the contractor has no job with it, the consumer, and the consumer, you're paying for a service that you cannot or will not do yourself. So the consumer is always like my way or the highway, right? The customer is always right. But at the end of the day, you wouldn't have work to be done without somebody doing it.
Thanks for coming on the podcast. You're
Um,
gonna be episode 1 that gets published,
nice. Hopefully that'll
so
be
you'll be
good.
the OG.
Nice. I
Yeah.
can't wait to tell the guys that are on the podcast. MTL Carpentry.
Those are
Cuss.
your deck builders?
Yeah, that's our deck and our fence
MTF.
guys. here in northern-ish Ontario. They'll drive around and build you great stuff.
Awesome.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks again for coming on.
No
And
problem.
yeah, I'll let you know when the new episodes come out with the custom home builders.
Yes, please. I will definitely listen. Good luck.
Thank you for joining to listen to this episode of Constructive Conversations. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Make sure you follow us. Next week, we have got an outstanding interior designer from the city of Calgary joining us. Thanks. Take care.